firstly, I absolutely agree with everything that both Prof. Bonang and Greg have said in the lead up. But I think firstly, I don't think ethics can be, I don't think leadership can be divorced from ethics in any shape or form. The two are absolutely fundamentally linked together, because leadership is about making the correct decisions. So it just automatically has to sit into when somebody stands up at the head of a company or at the head of the country, they need to take the right decisions, and those right decisions are around how are we going to carry out the mandate that has been given to us by our shareholders, by our citizens, by the taxpayers, etc., and how are we going to carry them out in both an efficient manner and in a manner that actually gets the job done. And I think, to me, the biggest problem we have in South Africa is that if we unpack the South African economy, we have a mining sector which is always at the mercy of international global commodity cycles. The price of gold or the price of platinum can fluctuate. It's almost entirely out of our control. We have a tourism industry which is competing against every other country in the world, who's looking to have people come and spend their hard-earned savings in South Africa. We have a manufacturing sector which has largely been obliterated over the years. But the one sector that truly can contribute to job creation in South Africa, and as a consequence of job creation, to improvements in GDP, is the infrastructure sector. We have a sector that was once upon a time the envy of most of the world, and not just South Africa or in Africa. We sent our engineering companies overseas to build airports in Dubai. We sent them overseas to build high-rise hotels in Dubai. We really had a sector that we could be extremely proud of, and it employed a huge number of people. So we have a situation in South Africa where we allocate something like 850 billion South African rand on our medium-term budget framework every year, so over a 3-year rolling window for infrastructure. And what we've discovered over the last 15 years in particular is that very little of that money actually gets spent. So it has a double consequence. It doesn't create the jobs because people are not employed, but sectors like the construction industry have largely disappeared because there have not been the projects that are rolling out in order to keep the sector moving. And most of that can probably be directly attributed to corruption. So while I accept that you said a minute ago, Michelle, that we shouldn't only focus on corruption, corruption sort of becomes the heart of the leadership discussion. If we make corrupt leadership decisions, what happens? We make the wrong choices. We make choices for very particular reasons. We choose, for example, we might choose to continue building coal-fired power stations instead of renewable energy projects, which might have a long-term consequence on the SDGs that you've spoken about. And I'm very cognizant of the dilemma that we sit with in South Africa, where we are a coal-heavy country. We need to be cognizant of transitioning, but everybody else in the world has faced this issue of job transitions as we move from a fossil fuel-based economy to maybe a more clean energy economy. But all of those leadership decisions are almost being perverted by the fact that we are focusing entirely on corrupt procurement practices and procurement methodologies. And therefore, we are not creating the jobs. The construction industry has the ability, in my personal opinion, to create way more jobs than by pumping money into the mining sector. Any form of subsidies that could be pumped in to try to prop up sectors could be better spent merely procuring properly and going ahead with the infrastructure program, which is infinite. I mean, it truly, the 850 billion is merely the government's allocation to infrastructure. What infrastructure also has the ability to do is to create a gearing effect. So in other words, for every $10 that the country commits and invests in infrastructure, we can probably raise 50, 60 times more money, or sorry, I beg your pardon, 5 or 6 times more money to leverage that kind of investment. So the consequential effects on economic growth are just beyond comprehension. That would have created the social housing, the water, fixing the water problem, fixing the energy problems, etc. And so unfortunately, the leadership problem really is at the heart of why we have done so poorly in terms of economic growth.